Watching Netflix's Extraction 2, I didn't really care about anything that happened to the characters on screen, but I did find myself starting to feel for the film's director, Sam Hargrave, who works overtime to lend this brick of a movie some semblance of imagination. A veteran stunt professional, Hargrave directed the first Extraction, which came out in 2020. I've somehow seen that film twice, and yet my memory of it is just a miasma of tedious headshots. The sequel certainly represents a step up from that effort. The kills, of which there are many, are infinitely more creative this time, even if the story and characters remain thoroughly forgettable. It didn't have to be this way. I don't know what more Hemsworth has to do to demonstrate his considerable charm and comic timing. As evidenced in his outings as Thor, his scene-stealing cameos in the comedies Ghostbusters, 2016, and Vacation, 2015, and his layered, entertaining turn as the smarmy villain of last year's Spiderhead, another Netflix production. But the Extraction movies seem determined to use him in the most uninspiring way possible. As Tyler Rake, the series' haunted Aussie Black Ops mercenary, the actor is stoic, silent, and humorless. There is a reason for this. Tiny flashbacks throughout tell us that at the heart of everything Rake does is an attempt to make up for abandoning his young son on his deathbed. The film gives us just enough of this motivation to make that clear, and yet not enough for it to resonate in any meaningful way. All Hemsworth is asked to do is stare off into space. As a result, there's an emotional void where the movie's heart should be. But he can fight, and he can move, and Extraction 2 uses its star's physical abilities well, particularly in an extended 20-minute-plus single-shot prison escape, beat-down, and chase that marks the movie's high point. Of course, it's not really a single shot. There are clearly digital stitches hidden amid all those whip pans and dark shadows passing through the frame. And in some ways, this extended sequence represents the film's shortcomings as well, as its creativity gradually curdles into tedium. Let's talk about this for a bit. The setup of the sequence is simple. Everything in this movie is simple. Rake has agreed to help extract a woman, Ketavan Tinatian Dalakishvili, and her 2 kids from a Georgian prison, where they are being housed alongside her mobster husband, who wants his family by his side while he serves out his sentence. At first, the delirious camera work following Rake and his wards through the bowels of the crowded labyrinthine prison enhances their confusion, and the frantic pace accelerates as the various inmate gangs rise up and attack our heroes. Then we move on to a big, crowded prison yard melee, involving axes, guns, knives, shovels, grenades, and one movie star with a flaming arm. This section is genuinely uproarious. It's a shame that most people watching Extraction 2 will have to experience this inside of their existential content cocoons, and not in a rowdy movie theater. Alas, the one-shot sequence keeps going after that into a car chase, a train chase, and a helicopter chase. And after a while, what's happening on screen ceases to matter, because it seems like the only thing the filmmakers care about is keeping this tired visual gimmick going. By the time the umpteenth black car is getting bazookaed into oblivion, we can smell the desperation behind the camera. These show-offy single-take sequences certainly have their place. My favorite film from last year, and maybe my favorite film of this young decade, Romain Gavris's Athena, was built partly around a series of so-called owners. But in Athena, also produced by Netflix, these sequences spoke to the exaltation and release of the story's central rebellion. They expanded the film's metaphor, allowing one Banlieue uprising to become a vision of a broader warlike conflict. Athena's formal daring matched its thematic ambitions, in other words. If such connections exist in Extraction 2, I miss them. Mainly, it's all just neat, impressively mounted, and increasingly meaningless. Still, that's not nothing. Hargrave's directorial bravado and perverse imagination occasionally help transcend the generic story and characters. The screenplay was written by Joe Russo, based on a 2014 graphic novel he created with his brother Anthony Russo and Andy Parks. A guy gets pitchforked in the neck, another gets his face plastered into a furnace before his hand is ripped in half. Then some other guy gets his head smushed with a dumbbell. At least one helicopter blows up real good. There's a fight on a glass rooftop that's fun for about half a minute. You get your kicks where you can. Certain action movies rely mainly on getting the viewer excited about the inventive stunt work and pyrotechnics on screen, with little care given to establishing any real emotional engagement. Extraction 2 can't quite pretend to be one of those, because it does try to move us, and mostly fails. But it's clear that Hargrave's interests and skills lie in the realm of staging gonzo action, set pieces full of creatively garish violence. I can't wait to see what happens to him next.